The Radio Forest Podcast.
How are you today?
Hey, I'm doing really good. And you?
Yeah, fine, man. Yeah, all good.
And congratulations on being a U.S. citizen now.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that was amazing. That was right after we had the lockdown, when it was obvious that we couldn't play any more shows for a while. I got back from Australia, and I got a call from my attorney saying, can you get down to the immigration office before everything locks down? And it was on St. Patrick's Day, ironically. Although I'm Scottish, it was on the National Irish Day. And I went down and got my citizenship there. It was just amazing, a great feeling. So I'm very happy to be a born-again American, as it were.
We're talking to Davey Johnstone. He is the longtime guitar player with Elton John, and he's played with Stevie Nicks and Alice Cooper. But you've got this new solo release, Deeper Than My Roots. It's been a long time, is that correct, right? You had like one back in the 70s and a couple of other songs, but it's been a long time since you've just had your own album.
Yeah, well, looking back over those decades, it's been 50 years now, Elton kept me pretty busy over each of these decades. I mean, really, we've done more touring than just than any band, actually, in history. So we always did a lot of live work, which I think is one of the main reasons that Elton has stayed so prolific and so current in the public eye over those years. And, yeah, it's just great. It was kind of a gift for me, in a sense, the fact that when we had the lockdown, it became evident that I was going to be home for a while, and I would have time to focus on my own music for a while. I wouldn't have to think about getting the band together for Elton and rehearsing and doing all that kind of thing. And so I just focused on my own music, and it's been really a gift in that way to do that.
A couple of years ago, you hit 3,000 shows that you've performed with Elton John. So if you did that every day straight, that would be like 8 years of working every single day. What changes live between the 3,000th show and, say, like the first 50 shows? I mean, obviously, you probably get a little bit more comfortable, but Elton plays some massive shows, and there are some major celebrities in the crowd. So are you still as nervous, or has it changed throughout the years?
Wow, that's an amazing fact that you just reeled off about playing 8 years constantly on stage. That's hilarious. I can't imagine what we'd all look like if we did that.
8.2, actually.
That's hilarious, man. That's a funny. I'm going to bring that up. I'm going to tell Elton that when I see him on Saturday. Yeah, it's been incredible. I can only say that the whole experience has been unbelievable. It was unusual for me as a 20-year-old kid when I joined him, going for my first U.S. tour, and coming to, say, L.A., for example, and playing to like Elizabeth Taylor and Jackson Brown, and people would be in the auditorium, Joni Mitchell, and you're going like, holy shit, these are all icons of all kinds, and Cary Grant. I'm going like, what the fuck? But it's always been a remarkable thing. So as those years have progressed, you might get a little bit more blasé, but not really, because, on my 3,000 show, my good buddy Eddie Vedder turned up, and whenever I know people like Eddie are in the audience, it always makes things a little more sharp. You've got to really think, oh my God, one of my compatriots is watching. I better be good tonight. But we do that every night. We try and bring our best work to people wherever we are, whatever the size of the audience, whether it's 1,000 or 60. It doesn't, it's the same kind of thing.
So what was the feeling like then for John Lennon's final show? It was Thanksgiving Day, I think, like 1974. Now, you wouldn't have known, obviously, at the time it would be his last public performance. But was it kind of the same feelings then you're talking about Eddie, or was it a little bit different because you're like, dude, it's freaking John Lennon?
Oh, no, there was definitely a lot of that because, let's face it, every act around in music, I think it's true today also, hold the Beatles as being some really serious template as far as these guys were probably the best it's ever been. It's not going to get a whole lot better than the Beatles. So way back when we first heard that John Lennon was enjoying what we did, we were like, oh my God, really? So when we got to meet John in the mid-70s, in 1974, and he came out to Caribou Ranch with us and we recorded some stuff together, we became quite good friends over the next few months, and he traveled with us quite a lot. So when that all culminated with Madison Square Garden show, we were still thinking, I was still thinking as a guitar player. I turned to my right and I'm at Madison Square Garden on stage, and there's John Lennon with me. And it was an amazing experience. And then after that show, actually, John came over to my suite at the Plaza in New York and hung out for several hours, and we just partied and talked about the stuff we loved, and overall a great experience. And who would have known that he would be taken so early in his life? And, the world is a much colder place without John.
Now, I know you've got quite a few kids, and I'm pretty sure your daughter did the album work, but didn't you also have some kids performing? I know you do a lot of stuff with one of your sons, but did more than one of your kids, were they involved with this album?
Oh, my God, yeah. I got all the kids involved.
I thought so, yeah.
Yeah, my eldest, Tam, who lives in the UK, he did a couple of mixes for me and played some zany keyboards on a couple of things. My son, Jesse, played drums remotely from his home in East LA. My son, Charlie, played piano on a few tracks and background vocals and mixed a few of the songs. My son, Elliot, is an amazing singer and did lead vocals on most of the album. And my daughter, Julia, did all the album artwork. So I got to tell you, man, between this whole record, it's cost me a fortune in session fees on those kids because they don't come cheap.
Yeah, that's really cool. Let me ask you a personal question, but I don't want to know your finances. I'm more interested in the business, so I'm not looking for exact numbers. I don't want you to take this the wrong way. But Elton, the farewell tour, so far it's like the 17th highest grossing tour in history, and Elton is the 4th best-selling artist of all time behind the Beatles and Elvis. So when you're a part of that, which of those pays better for you? So is it more of the touring or more of the album sales? And I'm sure it's changed over the years, but which one of those is kind of more of a lucrative deal for a professional musician like you?
Well, as far as my situation with Elton over the years, there have been several songs that we've written together that have done so well, like I guess I was probably called the blues. I always love hearing that on the radio because I get a ka-ching, I hear the cash register and think, great, I can send my kid to college. So a lot of my writing with him over the years has been really beneficial to that. But, for most musicians, if they're dead honest about things, touring and big, giant tours like we do really is where a lot of the money is. So in many cases, artists will record albums and music in order to get that music to the people who will then come to see the live shows in support of that album. So if it goes hand in hand, like it has done with Elton and me over the years, then you've kind of got a win-win situation. I got to tell you, though, after the last couple of years of just relying on my own writing and all the rest of it, I'm ready to go back in for another couple of years of touring income, which is always great with Elton.
Yeah, I'd imagine. So you think then, like if somebody was just to get into the business and you could be a songwriter or like a live musician touring, but you think the touring is really like a nice icing on top as things change throughout the year? Is that kind of the gist of it?
Well, yeah, the whole thing really should go hand in hand. That's the whole point. If you're a musician and a songwriter, you should also be a performer. And I know those sensibilities have kind of changed over the years. The whole business has changed so much. But I believe that this is my own experience. When I was learning to play an instrument, say guitar, when I was like 12 years old, and then I went on to mandolin and learning banjo and learning sitar, by the time I was 16, I had like a stable of instruments that I knew would stand me well if I wanted to play on people's records. So that's how I started. But then when it came to performing live, I already had that in the bag because I was already an experienced musician. And I think in some ways that may have changed over the years and over the decade. People may be really good at recording albums, but maybe not so good at performing live. And I know that thing has changed. So I'm really grateful that my career enabled me to become really good at my craft overall and be able to work with other brilliant musicians like Elton and our band with Dee Murray and Nigel Olsen. The four of us were able to create music and then take it out on the road for people's enjoyment. And I really think that's where it's at, the whole package rather than just one thing.
Well, it's the Scottish-American Davey Johnstone, longtime guitarist for Elton John, new solo album out now with the song Melting Snow. It's deeper than my roots. Davey, thank you for chatting with me today.
Oh, great talking to you, man, and all the best to you. Thanks for having me on the show.